"Don't open that door, Marcus. Not tonight." The warning was still taped beside the deadbolt when 9-year-old Eli pressed both hands to the bakery window and stared into the rain. Reed's hearth had closed 12 minutes earlier. The display case was dark, the register was locked, and the last warmth from the ovens drifted through the little shop like a memory refusing to leave. Outside, rain hammered the sidewalk in silver sheets. Across the street, beneath a narrow awning that leaked at every seam, a black woman stood alone with one hand shielding her face and the other gripping a nearly dead phone. "Dad, she's getting soaked." Marcus Reed kept counting the bills on the counter.
$40.
20. 5. 3 singles. Not enough for the rent increase folded inside the white envelope beside him. "The bus should come soon," he said quietly. "The sign says delayed," Eli answered. "And the coffee shop told her no." Marcus looked up. The woman had already tried 2 doors. At the pharmacy, someone had pointed at the closed sign without unlocking it. At the boutique, a clerk had shaken her head and pulled the shade. Now the woman stood under the failing awning while water gathered around her shoes. On the wall beside Marcus hung another notice, printed in bold letters by the neighborhood office. "No business activity after 8 p.m. Further violations may affect lease status." One more complaint could cost him the bakery. One more violation could erase 12 years of early mornings, burned hands, school lunches packed before sunrise, and every promise he had made to Eli after his wife died. "Dad," Eli said, softer now, "does closing mean we stop being kind?" Marcus stopped counting. For a moment, only the rain spoke. It tapped against the glass, rushed through the gutters, and hissed beneath passing tires. The bakery smelled of cinnamon, yeast, and the vegetable soup Marcus had saved for his own dinner. Then he folded the money, locked it in the register, and walked toward the side door. "Stay behind me. The floor will get slippery." Eli's face brightened. Marcus turned the deadbolt. Above the door, an old brass bell gave a tired little ring. Most people thought it was decoration. Marcus knew a small camera sat inside its tarnished shell, installed after someone broke the lock the previous winter. He opened the door just wide enough to call through the storm. "Ma'am, you can wait in here until the rain lets up." The woman looked behind her as though he might be speaking to someone else. "Your shop is closed." "The register is closed," Marcus replied. "The room is still dry." She hesitated. "I don't want to cause trouble." Marcus glanced once at the warning taped beside the door. "Neither does the rain." She stepped inside. Water ran from the hem of her coat and darkened the old tile beneath her. Marcus handed her a clean towel, moved a chair near the cooling oven, and pointed toward an outlet beside the mixer. "You can charge your phone there. I can pay." "Not for sitting down." Eli disappeared into the kitchen and returned carrying a bowl with both hands. "It's soup," he said. "Dad made it. It's better than it looks." Marcus almost smiled. "That was my dinner."
Eli frozze.
"Oh." Marcus placed a spoon beside the bowl. "Now it's hers." The woman studied him carefully, not the way a grateful stranger usually looked at someone, but like she was measuring the distance between his words and his actions. "You know you could lose your license for this," she said. Marcus wrote the time in the bakery log, then closed the book. A locked door can follow every rule and still be wrong. Across the street, a silver sedan switched on its headlights. A phone rose behind the windshield, aimed directly at the bakery door. Marcus did not see it. Neither did Eli, but the old brass bell did. The woman had just lifted the first spoonful of soup when 3 sharp knocks struck the glass. Marcus turned. Richard Vale, the landlord, stood outside beneath a black umbrella, smiling as though he had arrived for an appointment. And in his other hand, he was already holding a violation form. Richard Vale waited beneath his umbrella until Marcus unlocked the door, then stepped inside without shaking off the rain. Behind him came Claire Whitmore, the neighborhood compliance manager, holding a tablet against her chest. Linda Caro followed last, wearing a cream raincoat and the concerned expression she used whenever she wanted criticism to sound like civic duty. "Marcus, this is unfortunate," Richard said. "The shop is closed." Marcus replied. Then why is someone being served? Linda pointed toward Naomi's bowl. Eli moved closer to his father. Naomi set down her spoon and watched without speaking. The cooling bakery held the smell of wet wool, cinnamon, and soup. Rain rattled the windows while Richard placed the violation form on the counter as carefully as if he were delivering a condolence card. I have defended this little bakery more times than you know, he said. But the lease is clear. No customers after 8 o'clock. Marcus looked at the wall clock. It read 8:27. She is not a customer. Claire raised her tablet. Food was provided. Seating was provided. The entrance was reopened. No money changed hands. That may not matter. Linda lifted her phone and photographed the bowl. Then she turned the camera toward Naomi. Marcus stepped between them. You can photograph my door, he said. You do not get to turn her into evidence. Linda lowered the phone, offended. I am only documenting conditions. People in this neighborhood deserve cleanliness, safety, and standards. Naomi looked down at the rainwater beneath her chair. I can leave. No, Marcus said. You can finish eating. Richard gave him a patient smile. Kindness does not exempt you from a contract. Marcus met his eyes.
No.
But a contract does not exempt us from being human. For one quiet second, even Linda had nothing to say. Claire broke the silence by photographing the warning notice and the open door. I need the time of the incident, she said. 8:12. Naomi's gaze shifted to the clock. You arrived less than 2 minutes ago. Claire's finger stopped above the screen. The report began when the violation was observed. By whom? Naomi asked. Linda answered too quickly. Repeated late-night service has been an ongoing concern. Marcus looked at the warning notice. The same phrase appeared near the bottom. Repeated late-night service. Word for word. Eli tugged at his father's sleeve and whispered. That lady was in the silver car. Linda heard him. Excuse me? Eli pointed through the rain-streaked window. The one with the red bird sticker. I saw it before Dad opened the door. Linda's smile tightened. Children notice all kinds of things. He likes cars, Marcus said. He usually notices the right things. Richard cleared his throat. This is becoming unnecessarily personal. Marcus, sign the acknowledgement, and perhaps we can keep this from becoming a larger problem. Claire turned the tablet toward him. Marcus read the statement. It said he had conducted retail food service after hours. That is not what happened. Your signature only confirms receipt, Claire said. Then write that beside it. She hesitated. Richard's voice remained gentle. Cooperation would make this easier. Marcus looked at him. For whom? The rain softened for a moment, and the bakery seemed to hold its breath. Richard glanced toward Naomi's bowl. I warned you this would happen tonight. Naomi looked up sharply. Claire turned toward him. Linda stopped pretending to inspect the floor. Richard blinked once, then adjusted his cuff. I mean eventually. I warned you another violation would happen eventually. Naomi's phone lay beside the outlet, its screen dark, but the recording from her unfinished call was still running. Richard did not know that. Marcus did not know it either. Claire sent the notice to the small printer behind the counter. The machine clicked, hummed, and released a single page. There will be an emergency lease hearing, she said. One more confirmed violation could terminate your occupancy. Eli stared at the paper as if it were something alive. Marcus folded it once and placed it beside the rent increase. She is still staying until the bus comes. Richard's smile disappeared for the first time. As he turned to leave, a corner of Claire's attached file slipped from beneath the notice. Naomi saw a property map marked with several colored blocks. Reed's Hearth was outlined in red, along with 3 neighboring businesses. In the margin was a code she recognized from confidential redevelopment documents reviewed by her foundation. This was not merely a bakery. Violation. Someone had already planned for Marcus Reed's shop to be empty. For several seconds after the door closed behind Richard, Claire, and Linda, no one moved. Rain whispered against the glass now, softer than before, but the bakery felt colder. Eli stared at the folded hearing notice beside the register. Naomi stared at the red mark she had seen on the property map. Marcus simply returned to the counter and finished writing the time in his log. 8:29. No sale. Emergency shelter only. You keep records like someone expecting not to be believed, Naomi said. Marcus capped the pen. People like me learn early that truth needs timestamps. Eli carried the empty soup bowl toward the sink, then stopped. Did she like it? Naomi looked at him. She did. Good. Dad puts too much pepper in it. Marcus finally smiled. You asked for extra pepper last week. That was different. Eli disappeared into the kitchen, his sneakers squeaking on the tile. The small exchange loosened something in the room, but only for a moment. Naomi picked up her wallet. At least let me pay for the soup. Marcus shook his head. The register is closed. Then tomorrow. It was not for sale. The towel then, also not for sale. She studied him. You refuse money often? Only when someone needs help more than I need a receipt. The answer sounded simple, but the white envelope holding the rent increase remained on the counter between them. Naomi noticed the amount written in red ink. She also noticed the unopened notice from the bank beneath it. Marcus saw where she was looking and quietly turned both envelopes face down. He did not explain. He did not ask for sympathy. Instead, he began dividing the remaining bread into 3 brown paper bags. One bag received a label for the senior center. Another was marked for the late bus driver. The third had Eli's name written across the top in large, uneven letters. You donate what does not sell? Naomi asked. Some of it. Even with the rent problem? Bread does not become more valuable because I let it go stale. Eli returned with a dish towel over one shoulder. Dad saves the cinnamon rolls for Saturday. Marcus raised an eyebrow. 1 cinnamon roll. Sometimes 2. Naomi almost laughed, but her attention shifted to the bakery log. Every line was dated. Oven start. Oven shut off. Delivery pickup. Register close. Waste count. Donation count. Nothing fancy. Just disciplined handwriting from a man who seemed to know that small details were the only defense ordinary people had when powerful people decided to rewrite their lives. Have the complaints always been about late service? She asked. Marcus folded the top of one bag. Not at first. Noise. Trash. Delivery trucks blocking the alley. Then reliability. Reliability. I lost a school breakfast contract after 3 complaints said I missed deliveries. Did you? No, he opened a drawer and removed a thin binder. Signed delivery slips filled the pages. Each one carried a date, a time, and a school employee's initials. The district said the complaints created concern. Concern was enough. Naomi turned one page, then another. The first complaint had been filed 2 days after Richard offered to buy the bakery equipment at what Marcus called a generous price. He had refused. The second came exactly 7 days later. The third came 7 days after that. Naomi's expression changed. That timing is very clean. Marcus closed the binder. Clean enough to look official. Eli, now drawing at a corner table, looked up without lifting his crayon. Miss Linda came before closing. Marcus turned toward him. When? Tonight. She asked if you were going to break the rules again. Naomi and Marcus exchanged a glance. Before I came inside? Naomi asked.
Eli nodded.
She was in the silver car. The red bird was on the back window. Outside, the rain had thinned to a mist. A city bus rolled past the intersection without stopping, its route display dark. Naomi looked at her phone. The recording from her interrupted call was still active. She ended it, saved the file, and sent a brief message to her assistant. Pull every complaint filed against Reed's Hearth. Compare language, source, and submission data. The reply came less than a minute later. 3 complainants. Same printer profile. Same phrasing. 1 internet address. Naomi read the message. Twice. Then she looked across the bakery at Marcus, who was kneeling beside Eli to fix a broken zipper on the boy's backpack with a needle and dark thread. He worked slowly, imperfectly, without complaint. Marcus Reed might still have secrets. He might still have made mistakes. But someone had spent weeks building a story around him, and that story had started long before a woman stood in the rain. By 4:30 the next morning, the rain had moved east, leaving the sidewalks shining beneath the amber streetlights. Inside Reed's hearth, Marcus worked alone beneath the soft hum of fluorescent bulbs. Flour dusted his forearms. The first trays of dough rested beneath clean cloths, and the old wall clock moved with a tired click above the sink. He had slept less than 3 hours. Still, every temperature was written down. Every timer was set. Every surface was cleaned twice. At 7:15, Naomi returned carrying the folded towel he had given her. She wore a simple navy coat, and her hair was still damp from the morning mist. Marcus looked up from the mixing table. "You did not have to bring that back. I said I would. Most people say that. Most people did not give me their dinner." Eli sat at a small table near the front window, working through a page of multiplication problems before school. He waved with the seriousness of someone already busy. Naomi placed the towel on the counter and watched Marcus check the temperature of a batch of bread dough. He did not rush. He did not perform for her. He moved with the calm discipline of someone who had learned that mistakes in a kitchen rarely announced themselves before they mattered. "You always start this early?" she asked. "4 o'clock on weekdays. By yourself. Until 7:30. He glanced toward Eli. "Then my assistant leaves for 3rd grade. Eli looked up. "I fold boxes. I do not touch the oven." "That is correct," Marcus said. The front bell rang, and an elderly man entered carrying a cloth grocery bag. He bought 1 loaf of wheat bread and a small package of rolls. As he turned to leave, the bottom of the bag tore open. The bread dropped onto the wet floor. "Oh no," the man whispered. "I only brought enough cash for that." Marcus reached for a fresh loaf and another package of rolls. "Then it is good you already paid. You cannot keep replacing everything people drop." "I am replacing bread, Mr. Harris. Not everything." Naomi reached toward her purse, but Marcus shook his head once. She understood. This was not a performance, and he would not let her turn it into one. After Mr. Harris left, Naomi noticed a stack of delivery sheets beside the register. Each page showed pickup times, quantities, signatures, and allergy notes. "You ran a larger kitchen before this," she said. Marcus wiped the counter. "Hospital night shift. 12 years. Why leave? My wife died. Eli was 5. Night work stopped making sense." His voice remained even, but the room seemed to quiet around the words. Naomi did not ask how. She looked instead at the label tools, the color-coded cutting boards, and the separate shelf for ingredients containing nuts. "You keep better records than some commercial kitchens. Records protect people. And when kindness runs out of money?" Marcus looked toward the face-down bank envelope near the register. "Then kindness needs a system, not a speech." The answer stayed with her. It was not sentimental. It was operational. Before Naomi could respond, Marcus's phone rang. Claire Whitmore's name appeared on the screen. He answered on speaker while continuing to shape dough. "Mr. Reed, I need the security footage from last night. You can have a copy. Only the segment beginning at 8:20. Marcus stopped moving. The woman entered before that. "The cited violation begins at 8:20. The report says 8:12. Silence held for half a breath. Then Claire said, "Send the requested segment. I will send the full recording with a receipt and an independent backup." Her tone cooled. Cooperation would make this easier. Marcus set the dough scraper down. "For whom?" The call ended without an answer. Naomi watched him retrieve a small laptop from beneath the counter. He connected the camera card from the old brass bell and opened the folder dated the night before. The screen showed files from every previous day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then nothing. Marcus checked again. He searched the trash folder, the backup directory, and the camera history. The entire recording from the night Naomi entered the bakery was gone. At the bottom of the screen, one line remained. Remote administrator access, 2:14 in the morning. Marcus stared at the access log until the numbers blurred into something colder than fear. 2:14 in the morning. Someone had entered the camera system while he and Eli were asleep. Naomi stood beside him, silent now, her return towel still folded on the counter. "Who has administrator access?" she asked.
Ido.
Marcus opened the settings page. And the property network account. Meaning Richard? Meaning whoever controls the building connection. Eli looked up from his schoolwork. "Is the bell broken?" Marcus turned toward him.
No, Budi.
Someone tried to make it forget. Eli frowned at the brass bell above the side door, as though forgetting were a choice an object should be ashamed of. Marcus closed the bakery for 10 minutes, locked the front door, and pulled a small stepladder from the storage room. Naomi watched him remove the bell housing with a screwdriver. Dust fell across his sleeve. Inside sat the camera, 2 wires, and a narrow plastic compartment taped behind the metal plate. Marcus opened it and removed a second memory card. Naomi exhaled. "You made a backup. A customer who repairs computers helped me after the break-in last winter. The main system uploads through the building network. This card records locally. Does Richard know?" "I barely remembered." Marcus inserted the card into the laptop. The first file opened slowly. Gray rain filled the screen. The camera angle reached across the sidewalk and part of the street. At 7:58, Naomi appeared beneath the leaking awning. At 8:03, she tried the pharmacy. The clerk pointed at the closed sign. At 8:06, the boutique shade came down while she was still speaking. Then the silver sedan entered the frame and parked across from Reed's hearth. Linda sat behind the wheel. She did not leave. At 8:11, Richard appeared beneath his black umbrella and stopped. Just beyond the camera's clearest view. His phone rose to his ear. At 8:14, Marcus opened the door for Naomi. At 8:17, Linda stepped from the sedan, opened her trunk, and removed a Tide trash bag. She placed it near the bakery entrance, walked back several feet, and photographed it. Naomi's expression hardened. She created the condition she reported. Marcus did not answer. At 8:23, Claire approached carrying her tablet and a printed sheet. Even through the rain, the top line was visible. Incident time, 8:12. The report had already been completed before she entered the bakery. The recording had no useful sound, only rain and traffic, but the sequence was clear. Marcus watched it twice. He did not celebrate. He did not reach for his phone to post it online. He simply copied the file to 3 separate drives. "You have enough to expose them," Naomi said. "I have enough to ask better questions. They tried to erase it. That does not make me judge and jury." He sent 1 copy to a secure storage account, placed another in an envelope, and called Daniel Brooks, a community legal aid attorney who had once helped him review the lease. Daniel agreed to meet that afternoon. Marcus then asked Mr. Harris, who had returned for coffee, to sign across the sealed envelope as a witness. Naomi added her signature beneath his. "Why not release it now?" she asked. Marcus slid the envelope into the bakery safe. "Truth is not safer because it goes viral." His email notification sounded. A message from Richard had arrived. It stated that the property owner had never possessed access to the bakery's security system and had no knowledge of any missing footage. Marcus looked back at the access log. Property administrator, 2:14 in the morning. One claim was written. The other was recorded. "That email matters," Naomi said. "Only if we can prove the account belongs to him. You think he planned for that? Smart people do not build traps with 1 string." Naomi's phone vibrated. Her assistant had completed a deeper review of the complaints. The 3 documents had matching printer metadata, identical formatting errors, and creation times linked to an office device registered to Vail Property Management. Before she could show Marcus, his phone rang. Daniel's voice came through tense and direct. "Marcus, the emergency hearing was moved up." "To when?" "Tomorrow morning at 9. The bakery seemed to shrink around him. Dough waited on the table. Eli's backpack rested by the door. The bank notice remained face down beside the register. Less than 24 hours stood between Marcus and the loss of the only business his son had ever known. Then Claire sent another message. Failure to provide the requested footage by noon would be treated as non-cooperation. Marcus looked at the old brass bell in his hand. Someone had tried to erase the night. They had simply forgotten that quiet men sometimes keep more than one copy of the truth. At 8:12 that morning, while Marcus was arranging copies of the footage for Daniel Brooks, the phone beside the register rang. The caller was Evelyn Price, director of the Maple Street Senior Center. Her voice carried the kind of panic that tried hard to sound professional. A pipe burst above our kitchen. We have 27 people waiting for breakfast, and the health inspector shut the room down. Marcus glanced at the hearing notice. Fewer than 25 hours remained before Richard could take his bakery away. "What food do you have?" he asked. "Eggs, potatoes, fruit, and enough flour for biscuits. Bring the ingredients here. I can give you 90 minutes. Naomi watched him hang up. "You have a lease hearing tomorrow. They have 27 people who still need breakfast today." 30 minutes later, the bakery filled with boxes, volunteers, and nervous questions. Marcus did not become louder. He became clearer. "Wash hands first. Fruit at the front table. Potatoes by the sink. Nothing crosses the blue tape. Where do I put the eggs?" "Cold shelf, bottom left." "Can Eli help?" "He can fold boxes and place labels. He does not touch knives, burners, or hot trays." Eli saluted with a roll of stickers. "I am box management." "You are 9, Marcus said. "Manage accordingly." Naomi stayed near the counter, observing as Marcus turned a cramped bakery into an orderly temporary kitchen. He counted portions twice. He marked every container with ingredients. He assigned one volunteer to check names against the allergy list and another to record pickup times. There was no performance in it, no speech about leadership, only calm decisions made before small mistakes could become large ones. Halfway through the work, Marcus noticed a tray of biscuits marked dairy-free. He broke one open, smelled it, then checked the preparation bowl. A volunteer had brushed the tops with butter. "We can scrape it off," the volunteer said. "No, it is 24 biscuits. Then we make 24 more. We do not have time." Marcus lifted the tray and set it aside. "We do not gamble with someone else's child." Naomi looked at him differently after that. Kindness had first opened the door. Discipline was keeping people safe. Before the second batch went into the oven, a city bus stopped outside. The driver, Calvin Moore, entered to collect the bread Marcus had saved for him. He saw Linda's image paused on the laptop screen. "That silver sedan was there before the rain got bad," he said. Marcus turned. "You are sure?" "I waited at the light across the street for nearly 4 minutes. She was sitting inside, watching the bakery. A sanitation worker delivering clean containers overheard him. "She took that trash bag from her trunk," the worker said. "I almost told her pickup was not until Thursday." Naomi quietly saved both names and phone numbers. Independent witnesses. Different angles. No reason to protect Marcus. Her own phone held something else. Her assistant had cleaned the audio from the unfinished call recorded during the storm. Richard's voice came through clearly. "I warned you this would happen tonight." Marcus listened once, then set the phone down. "He will say he misspoke." "He did misspeak," Naomi said. "The question is why the truth came out when he did." The front bell rang. Claire Whitmore entered with a clipboard, her expression composed but strained. "Mr. Reed, this appears to be an unapproved food operation." Marcus pointed toward the delivery logs. "The senior center provided the ingredients. We are preparing emergency meals at no charge. You are expanding activity while under review. I am using a licensed kitchen to feed people whose kitchen flooded." Claire looked at the volunteers, the labeled boxes, and Eli pressing red allergy stickers onto lids. "Richard said you would try something like this before the hearing." Marcus went still. "How did Richard know the center would call me?" Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. She left without issuing another notice. An hour later, in her office, she searched the emails Richard had sent over the previous 2 months. Buried beneath a message labeled Routine Property Coordination was an attachment she had never opened. Vacancy Timeline, Read Unit. The file had been created 6 weeks before Marcus received his first violation, and tomorrow's hearing was listed as the final removal date. By late afternoon, Daniel Brooks had turned the back table of Reed's hearth into a wall of quiet proof. Camera timestamps, utility records, register logs, complaint forms, delivery signatures. Nothing dramatic by itself. Together, they began to tell a different story. The video helps, Daniel said, sliding one page toward Marcus. But Richard will argue that the clock was wrong, the angle was incomplete, or the file was altered. Marcus nodded. Then we do not lean on one thing. Exactly. Daniel tapped the stack. The power company confirms your main ovens shut down at 7:48. The register shows no sales after 8. The cloud server confirms the backup uploaded before anyone knew it existed. The complaints were created from the same office printer. Calvin Moore places Linda across the street before Naomi entered. The sanitation worker saw the trash come from her trunk. Naomi stood near the cooling rack, listening without interrupting. Marcus had still not asked why she understood legal review so quickly or why her assistant could trace document metadata in minutes. He seemed to sense she had not told him everything, but he did not press. Trust, he believed, was not something taken by force. It was something a person either gave or did not. Eli sat at the end of the table drawing while Daniel compared the vehicle plate visible in 2 blurred frames. "We are missing 2 characters," Daniel said. Eli looked over. "The silver car?" "Yes." Eli turned his paper around. He had drawn the sedan beneath a red bird sticker, with 6 numbers and letters written across the back. "I saw it when the brake lights came on." Daniel checked the image, then searched the public vehicle record available to counsel. The plate belonged to Linda Caro. Marcus rested a hand on Eli's shoulder. "Good memory." Eli shrugged. "I like cars." It was not a miracle. It was not a child solving an adult case. It was one small observation fitting into a chain built by many people. Daniel added the drawing to a folder marked supporting identification. Then he lowered his voice. "There is another option. Richard's attorney contacted me." Marcus looked up. "What option?" "You withdraw the complaint about the camera access. You do not challenge the previous violations. In return, Richard renews your lease for 1 year." Naomi's expression hardened. "He wants silence. He wants containment," Daniel said. "Legally, it could save the bakery." Marcus looked through the kitchen window at Eli, now lining up crayons by color. "And the other tenants? The agreement would only cover you. So the trap stays." "Marcus, I need you to understand the risk. Public hearings do not always reward the truth. Sometimes they reward the cleanest paperwork. Then we bring cleaner paperwork." Daniel leaned back. "You can save your bakery quietly." Marcus closed the folder. "And leave the trap standing for the next tenant?" Across town, Claire sat alone in her office with the vacancy timeline open on her monitor. 6 weeks before the first complaint, Richard had already scheduled Marcus's removal. 3 neighboring units were marked for the same process. Her phone rang. Richard's name appeared. She answered on the recorded municipal line. His voice was warm. "Claire, tomorrow may be uncomfortable. Stay consistent, and I will make sure the district director hears how professionally you handled this." "Consistent with what?" "That Marcus knowingly operated after hours. You told me it was a routine inspection." A pause. "Do not let one sentimental story damage your future." The line went quiet. Then Richard added, "There is an opening at the regional office. I would hate for confusion to cost you an opportunity." Claire stared at the recording indicator glowing red on her desk phone. For years, she had believed neutrality meant following procedure. Now she understood that procedure could be written by the person who expected to profit from it. I will testify to what the records show, she said. Richard's tone cooled. Be careful which records you think matter. When the call ended, Claire saved the recording instead of deleting it. Back at the bakery, Naomi asked Daniel to step outside. Beneath the faded awning, she finally showed him her identification from Ellis Hearth Foundation and explained the confidential redevelopment review. Marcus cannot know yet, she said. Not until our board verifies everything independently. Daniel studied the card. You are the investor Richard is clearing the block for. He thinks my foundation wants empty buildings. We want trusted operators. And Marcus. Naomi looked through the window. He was helping Eli pack the last donated rolls. He passed every test before he knew there was one. That evening, after Naomi and Daniel left, Marcus found a white envelope pushed beneath the bakery door. Inside was a single typed sentence. Withdraw your complaint, and your lease survives. He read it once, folded it carefully, and placed it beside the hearing notice. The choice was no longer whether he could save Reed's hearth. The choice was how many other doors would close if he saved only his own. At 9 o'clock the next morning, the neighborhood hearing room was already full. Shop owners lined the back wall. Residents filled the folding chairs. Eli sat beside Naomi in the second row, holding his sketchbook against his chest. At the front table, Marcus sat with Daniel Brooks and 3 labeled folders. Across from them, Richard Vale arranged his papers with calm precision. Linda Caro wore the same concerned expression she had worn in the bakery. Claire Whitmore stood near the witness table, pale but composed. Richard rose first. This matter is not about emotion, he said. It is not about generosity, hardship, or personal history. It is about a tenant who repeatedly violated a lawful agreement. He displayed the photograph of the open bakery door, then the bowl of soup, then the trash bag near the entrance. Intent does not change evidence, he said. Daniel stood. That is correct. Which is why we brought all of it. The room grew still. The first video showed Naomi beneath the leaking awning. It showed the pharmacy refusing her. It showed the boutique lowering its shade. Then it showed Marcus opening the bakery door. Richard leaned back as if the footage proved his point. Daniel allowed the video to continue. Linda's silver sedan appeared across the street before Naomi entered. Linda stepped out, opened her trunk, carried a trash bag toward the bakery, placed it beside the door and photographed it. A murmur moved through the room. Linda gripped the edge of the table. That is not what it looks like. Then tell us what it is, Daniel said. She did not answer. The next image showed Claire approaching with a violation report already printed. Daniel enlarged the page. Incident time, 8:12. What time did you arrive? He asked. Claire looked toward Richard, then back at the screen. 8:23. So the violation time was entered 11 minutes before you observed anything. Yes. Richard rose. Administrative estimates are common. Daniel held up the utility report. The main ovens shut down at 7:48. The register recorded no sales after 8. The delivery log confirms no commercial pickup. The cloud server verifies the video timestamp. 2 independent witnesses place Miss Caro across the street before the door opened. Page by page, the story Richard had built began to narrow around him. The complaints shared one printer profile. The documents came from a device registered to Vale Property Management. The camera system had been accessed at 2:14 in the morning through the property administrator account. Richard's email claimed he had never possessed access. Then Daniel played Naomi's recording. Richard's voice filled the room. I warned you this would happen tonight. Richard folded his hands. A poor choice of words. Daniel nodded. Alone, perhaps. He displayed the vacancy timeline. Reed unit. Final removal date. Created 6 weeks before Marcus's first violation. This time, no one murmured. The silence was heavier than accusation. Claire stepped forward. I need to correct my statement. Richard turned sharply. Claire. She placed a flash drive on the table. This contains a recorded call from Mr. Vale offering to support my promotion if I confirmed that Mr. Reed knowingly operated after hours. Richard's calm expression finally cracked. This entire district was supposed to be cleared before Ellis Hearth arrived. The sentence escaped too quickly. He heard it. Everyone heard it. Naomi stood. My name is Naomi Ellis. I am the founder of Ellis Hearth Foundation. The room shifted toward her. Our foundation has been reviewing this neighborhood for a community kitchen and job training program. We never requested empty buildings. We requested trusted local operators. She looked at Marcus. Mr. Reed did not know who I was when he opened his door. He did not know when he gave me his dinner. He did not know when he refused my money. And he did not know when he protected the dignity of a stranger while his own lease was at risk. Richard pointed toward her. So this was a test. No, Naomi said. The rain was real. Your plan was real. His kindness was real. The investigation came after. Linda began to speak, but her voice failed. Marcus looked at her without triumph. I am not asking this room to humiliate anyone, he said. I am asking it to stop a system that manufactures guilt and calls it procedure. The board chair called for a recess before the vote. Chairs scraped softly across the floor, but no one approached Richard. He remained standing beside his perfect stack of papers, surrounded by people who no longer mistook order for truth. Naomi handed Marcus a sealed proposal from her foundation. He did not open it. Not yet. Beyond the hearing room windows, dark clouds gathered again over Maple Street, and the old bakery waited with its brass bell above the door. When the board members returned, no one spoke until the chair placed both hands on the table. The after-hours violation against Reed's Hearth is dismissed. Eli squeezed his sketchbook so tightly that its cover bent. Marcus did not move. The chair continued. The lease termination is suspended. All prior complaints connected to Vale Property Management will be independently reviewed. The unauthorized access to the bakery security system, the falsified evidence, and the attempted influence of a public employee will be referred for formal investigation. Richard remained standing beside his papers. No one shouted at him. No one needed to. The room had once leaned toward every word he spoke. Now even Linda avoided his eyes. That silence was not revenge. It was the moment borrowed authority returned to the truth. Claire removed her identification badge and placed it before the board. I understand there may be consequences for my role in this. Marcus looked at her. There should be accountability. She nodded. I know. Accountability is not the same as being denied the chance to make something right. Claire looked up, surprised. Marcus did not forgive her in a sentence. He did not erase what she had signed. He simply refused to let justice become another machine that destroyed people without asking what they might repair. Outside the hearing room, Naomi handed him the sealed proposal again. You should read it now. Marcus opened the envelope. Ellis Hearth Foundation offered to fund a community kitchen inside the neighboring vacant unit, with Reed's Hearth serving as the operating partner. The agreement included equipment, training, an independent accountant, and paid positions for local parents returning to work. It was not a gift without conditions. Marcus would have to open his records, complete nonprofit management courses, and submit to quarterly safety reviews. This is a serious operation, Naomi said. That is why I am asking someone serious. Marcus read the final page, then looked toward the shop owners gathered in the hallway. Does this only help my bakery? That depends on how you build it. The other tenants need legal support. The senior center needs a backup kitchen. People working night shifts need somewhere affordable to eat. Naomi's expression softened. Put those terms in writing. And jobs for single parents. Put that in too. Only then did Marcus sign. Not because a powerful woman had rescued him, but because she had offered him responsibility instead of charity. Months later, Reed's Hearth still looked much the same from Maple Street. The brick remained faded. The front window still carried a thin scratch near the bottom. The old brass bell still hung above the side door, polished but not replaced. Next to it, Eli had painted a small wooden sign in careful white letters. After hours, ring only if you need shelter. The community kitchen opened 3 evenings each week. Calvin Moore and other bus drivers ate at the first table after their routes ended. Workers from the sanitation department stopped in before dawn. Parents trained in food safety while their children completed homework at a quiet table near the window. Claire, after accepting disciplinary action, joined the public review committee that rewrote the neighborhood inspection process. Linda submitted a formal apology and testified during the property investigation. Marcus accepted neither excuse nor humiliation as a substitute for change. Richard's redevelopment plan collapsed beneath the records he had created himself. Naomi visited often, usually carrying a folder of budgets or inspection notes. Whatever might grow between her and Marcus grew slowly, through trust, disagreement, work, and the ordinary grace of showing up. Then one evening, rain returned to Maple Street. It struck the awnings, washed the sidewalk silver, and blurred the lights of passing cars. Marcus turned the bakery sign to closed while Eli stacked the final boxes. Across the street, a delivery driver stood beneath a narrow ledge, his jacket soaked and his phone dark in his hand. Eli saw him first. He looked at the warning notice that Marcus had kept framed behind the counter, not as a threat now, but as a reminder. Then he looked at his father. Until the rain stops? Marcus reached for the deadbolt. Until he is safe. But Eli was already moving. He opened the side door, and the brass bell gave the same tired, gentle ring it had given months before. The driver stepped inside, grateful and shivering. No reporters were there. No investors were watching. No reward waited behind the moment. Naomi stood in the community kitchen, saw what happened, and quietly returned to her work. Because dignity does not require an audience. Grace does not ask whether kindness will be repaid. And sometimes the strongest thing a father can leave his son is not a business, a building, or a victory. Sometimes it is simply the courage to open a door when the world outside has turned cold.